Hi everyone, welcome to this week's Halton Hills housing update. So I have March numbers this week as well as what's going on in our market, but this might be like one of the most doom and gloom updates I've had in a while. Things are just like not pretty right now, as is my voice, because I'm going through this cold thing. So bear with me on that too. So looking at what happened last year, in March of 2024, we had 61 sales and our average price was 1.136 million. So pretty good month last March. So now looking at what happened this past March, our units sold is down 34% to 40 units. So not far off of where we were in February. The bad news is our prices are starting to really suffer here. So we are down over 16% year over year. Our average price this past March was $947,386. So, I mean, that does support. We kind of saw a lot more of our lower price point stuff selling, and the upper price points sort of cooled off a bit versus January. So 947,000. That is very low, and that is crazy for a March. Honestly, it's just crazy. Even when we look at where our average price was in January and February, both months were basically $1,075,000 when all the final numbers came in. So we are down almost 12% versus the first 2 months of the year. The market is in a really bad place, and I'm going to talk about our inventory numbers obviously later on, but in terms of year over year as well as compared to the first few months of the year, we are going in a very odd and very bad direction in terms of our numbers. So looking at what happened last week in Georgetown, there was 8 sales. That is really low for March, and we had 22 new listings. So in Georgetown, 22 new listings is so many new listings, and our sales are just nowhere near that. So our inventory is completely skyrocketed. Acton, Glen Williams, and the rural market had no sales this past week. So nothing reported. Buyers did nothing in those markets this week. We did see 2 new listings in Acton, 3 new listings in the Glen, and 5 new listings in the rural market. So you can imagine how this is going to roll into my update of where our average price is. So one other thing that we look at is our terminated relisted. We have there surprisingly was only 1 exit off the market last week of a property. 9 people relisted at a lower price, 2 people relisted at the same price, and 1 person went up in price. We are seeing some people still doing the bidding war tactic. It's working for some, it's not working for others. I really think at the inventory levels I'm about to report, this strategy needs to be completely out the window, because let's roll into our active inventory. All of Halton Hills is at 219 listings. I missed last week's update, one of those weeks. So 2 weeks ago, our inventory was at 184, and we are up to 219 active listings. The last time we saw that was September, and that really was a pocket in the summer where we were sitting that sort of 220 mark was very common through our summer months. And the difference is we were having double-digit sales every week, and that just isn't happening right now. So our inventory, we are another week away of, if this happens, to being at our all-time high. 232 is where we hit last year, which was our highest inventory ever, and somehow in the blink of an eye we are right back here. It's really, really bad news if you're a seller and for our prices in Halton Hills. So Georgetown this week is up to 134 active listings. 140 is kind of our peak, and we are not far off of that. We were at 104 2 weeks ago. So again, things are really shifting, and we'll sort of talk about price points here. So under 800,000 is up from 8 to 13 active listings in 2 weeks. That is not a massive jump. 800 to $1 million is 28. A few weeks ago, up to 29. So we're still sitting high in that pocket, but not the jump that I'm about to report on the 1 to 1.5 million price point. So 1 to 1.5 million 2 weeks ago was at 39 active listings. We are at 56. That price point is just getting hammered right now, and everything $1 million plus is definitely not moving like it did, and it's really just the price point, $1 million plus, is really where a lot of people are listing their homes right now. And it's just like not great. So we're at 56 active listings. I think our all-time high on that one is like 61 or 62. So again, not far. And then 1.5 million plus is also up from 29 to 35 active listings. So a lot of properties available, and we're seeing that climb too. So when we look at our 134, only 42 properties are under $1 million. And then the rest are over $1 million. So we saw a lot of movement in that pocket at the start of the year, and it's now so saturated that like we're not going to see a lot of movement, and we are going to have to start seeing pricing coming down, especially over, like, there's not a ton of stuff available between like $1 million and 1.2, but over that 1.2 is bananas right now. So really just, I would say, awful news, and such an odd place for us to be in April. I just, it's really, really bad. This is, yeah, I don't even know what to say. It's just not good. So looking at Acton, also really hurting there. So we went from 16 to 25 active listings in the last 2 weeks. Acton had softened a bit, but we are right back to feeling a pinch on inventory, and all of these markets, like our inventory going up this high is only going to bring our pricing down. Glen Williams is up from 9 to 11 active listings, and the rural market is actually down from 55 to 49. I think that that's related to they were redoing the back end system and where the boundaries were. So I think some of those properties that weren't correctly being reported all got sorted out, because we haven't had that many properties come off the market. So rural is at 49, which is still extremely high. And nothing seems to be moving in the rural market. I mean, you see last week, not a single sale reported in Acton, Glen Williams, and the rural market. I don't know the last time that happened. So my market update this week is, I would argue, terrible. This has happened so quickly. Like 2 weeks ago, we were kind of like, oh, this is not great. And now we're 2 weeks later, and it's like, oh wow, we are pushing some of our worst numbers ever, and we are in our historically super busy period. So there's so many good houses. Interest rates are low. Just when there's this much inventory and the buyers are hesitant, it's not good for our overall market. If you are a buyer, I will say there's a lot of motivated sellers, and because we're just kind of coming into this point where our inventory is skyrocketing, now is sort of the time where properties are still listed high, but you can maybe get a better price on them. So looking a little bit outside of your budget, this is one of those times, especially if it's $1 million plus, to really be thinking about like, what could I get this for? Where is this a good price? Because we know when all this stuff washes out and the election's over and hopefully everything can just like, sort of our economic uncertainty can be fixed, that hopefully all of this will just be like a distant memory. And I do think that there's some really great properties to be picked up. And like I said, people are getting fixed rates in the 3%, like high threes, but still there's a 3 in the front, which is like, honestly, before COVID, like, and before everything that happened, like 3% was our norm. Like 3 to 4% is where interest rates were like the first 10 years of my career. And so we are getting back to like a good, stable interest rate lending situation. And I would argue there's some really nice properties, and just buyers are just not there right now. So we're gonna have to see what happens. Terrible update for March, a terrible weekly update. I really just hope that come May, June, we can kind of have a delayed spring market, because what we're seeing right now is nothing good's gonna come of this. So I will be back next week to see what happens, and we may hit our historical high here if this week is anything like last. So I will be back next week. Have a great week, everyone.